Hello, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to do something a little unusual today. I did actually go out this morning with just my little iPhone, and on the dog walk I thought in the woods I'd see if I could get any decent pictures. Unfortunately, that video is never going to surface because I got it wrong. I used the phone as I always do, like this way up. So when I was vlogging, I had it this way up as well. And all the footage is in portrait mode, which is virtually useless. So I binned all that lot. Anyway, today's video, this one, is about comparing my Sony A7R Mark4, which is a 62 megapixel camera with a 16 to 35 GM lens on, with, and this is unusual, but with this beastie. This is my little Mavic Air 2, which I bought. I've had it about 3 or 4 days now, and so far I've been incredibly impressed with it. You might even have seen in the last video some of the footage that came from it. Now this has a 48 megapixel camera on the front, and it's got a field of view of 84 degrees. And what I want to do is see just how good that little drone is at taking a shot in the garden, which is behind you, compared to the same field of view, which on the 16 to 35, courtesy of this calculator I've got here, 84 degrees equals 18 degrees here. So I've got this set at 18 degrees. I'll take both shots at f5.6 to give them both as much chance of being as similar as possible, and also at ISO 100. And obviously I've got the controller. The drone will be flying about 2 feet away from the camera. So I'll take a picture with the camera, I'll have the drone already flying, I'll video this from outside, so I'll take this vlogging camera out so you can watch all this curious shenanigans going on. And when I've got the images, I'll bring them back into Lightroom as raw images, and we'll do a comparison side by side in Lightroom to see just how good or bad the drone's camera is in comparison to a top of the range. Okay, the first thing I've got to do obviously is get this A7R4 set up. So if I can get that on, mounted on the tripod securely, let's just frame it up into the distance over in that side of the garden. We've got quite a lot of shadow over there and an old tree trunk, well, it's not a tree trunk, it's a tree, in the corner, which can be the centre of the shot. The dog wants to play as well, so he's moved into the frame. And if I get this geared head sorted out, what are we doing? Let's get exposure set to the same mode that the drone will be on, which will be center weighted, matrix metering, ISO 100, f5.6 focused on the tree trunk. Okay, that's ready. Now let's get the drone and see what it does. I'm going to take the drone off from my hand. It's not something I recommend other people do, but I've been using drones for a long time, so I'm quite comfortable doing it. I'll just wait for this application to come online. And it's so bright out here I can't see the... That's it. Okay, so here we have the little drone. We've got battery. It says I'm in Newmarket and I'm in enhanced warning area. I'm in West Peckham in Kent. It always does that. I don't know why. So, okay, here we go. So what I'll do is I'll start the drone up and I'll position it just the other side of the camera so you'll be able to see it, and we'll see what picture we get from that. It's set on 48 megapixels. Take off. I'll put that in tripod mode because the drone in tripod mode is its most stable, and we'll bring it down to the same height as my camera and just bring it back, and that's good enough. So what I'm doing is I'm just pointing it straight at the tree in the corner, set the focus and exposure on the drone through this control panel, and we will take that picture. That seems to have worked now. Just check the framing on this one to make sure I've got them framed up identically. And that could do with just being leveled up a bit more. So that's now the same image on both screens. So let's get that taken. I've got some exposure compensation set on this which I need to cancel out. So yep, that's about the same. 5.6, 5.6, yep, they're both doing exactly the same thing. And the image I can see here is the same as the one on the back of the camera. I'll show, in case you can see it, that's the image that we're taking from the drone, and the Sony set up the same. So let me just get the drone back. And again, I don't recommend people do this, I'm used to catching them from the air, so. You just have to keep your fingers very well away from the propellers, and then obviously tell it to stop. Turn off the motors, fold it up. Lovely piece of kit this, I'm very pleased with it. From a photographer's point of view, it just is so useful to be able to get into places that other people can't get to. You just get that little advantage of being above a tree that might be blocking your view or whatever. Anyway, let's take all this gear back inside. And we'll go in and see what happens with the pictures. So really it's a comparison of a camera mounted on a most successfully strong and solid tripod as opposed to one mounted in the air, and how well the gimbal works. Let's see. This new controller they've come out with this particular drone is really quite a nice idea. The previous one had a couple of arms that folded down at the bottom and your mobile phone sort of latched into there. This one's much more practical. It fits in the hand nicely, and the phone actually sits in this little spring-loaded cradle at the top. And I suspect these two bits of metal act as the aerial, because most of the other drone controllers have aerials. This one doesn't appear to have an obvious one, so I assume it's probably incorporated in that. And it's really nice as well the way the connection cable sort of just folds up quite nicely into the gap underneath the phone holder. And by the time you've taken the tiny little screw in, yep, come on, the little tiny joysticks off and they slot into the bottom like that, it's really quite a neat and solid little package. So that can go back in there well out of the way. And the trick for getting the footage off the drone, you can plug a USB cable straight into the drone. I tend not to do that because it's fiddly, and this is fiddly, so both are as fiddly as each other. But there's a tiny flap on the side here, and inside there is, I don't know if you can see that, there is an SD card, a micro SD card, that, which, just discard the drone for a second, that goes into a normal SD card holder, obviously. That then goes into the SD card high-speed reader, and then that goes in the computer. So let me offload those images, and we'll go into Lightroom and see what they look like. Okay, I've got both images loaded up into Lightroom. On the left panel here, I've got zoomed in both images. Notice the crop factors are different because the sensors is different physical shapes, but the left hand image is the DJI's 48 megapixel image. If I click on that image, you can see that it's 6/8 to 48 here in the dimensions part of the EXIF data, and if I click in this panel, which is the Sony's image, it is 9.5 by 6.3, which is its 62 megapixels thereabouts. Now I'm zoomed in on a section of the image, and you can see without any doubt at all the image quality from the Sony is far superior to that of the DJI's smaller camera. There seems to be almost a haze over the image on the left here compared to the image on the right, which is what I'd expect from a Sony with this resolution with a G Master lens on. It's absolutely stunning. So it was a little bit of an unfair test, but I think nevertheless the image that I've got back from the drone is still a perfectly usable image, and to get to a place where I can't get my own camera and come away with an image that's as good as the drone's image, I would be happy with, even though I'd obviously prefer to get to the same place but with my main camera and get an image of the quality that the Sony's producing. But obviously that's not always possible, so to get the drone out over the sea and get some startling images of cliffs or seaside or verticals down onto beaches, things of that sort, I can't do that with the Sony unless I hire a helicopter, and that's a non-starter. So I'd still be more than happy to have an image of this quality. I'm going to play around with the image on the left a little bit more, because I strongly suspect I might be able to do a bit more with it to make it a bit more on a par with the image that's from the Sony, but it's obviously more work, and that means more effort. But if I load that image up here and switch across to full screen for that image, and just let's try a little bit of dehaze here, because it does almost seem as if there is an element of haze. Perhaps I've got a smear on the lens on the drone, because it's quite easy, like with a smartphone, to actually touch the lens and leave a tiny sort of layer of finger grease on it. See, that's definitely improved the image a lot, just for the sake of winding in some dehaze. It's still clearly not as detailed, but considering it's a tiny lens on a very small sensor, I'm pretty impressed with that all told. The colour balance looks quite nice, it's quite rich, there's a fair amount of detail in the shadows. I can't really get to the point of seeing if there's any noise there, but it doesn't look too noisy an image in the shadows. So there we are. That's my conclusion. There isn't one. They're both capable of different things, and that's pretty much to be expected. But I'm very pleased that for £700 the drone can produce a 48 megapixel image as good as that. It certainly is well worth the money, but to put it against about a £5,500 camera combination is a bit unfair. It's less than 20% of the price of the Sony equipment that I'm putting it against. So there we are. Those are the images. I hope you found that interesting. A little bit off the wall doing a video like this, but the more people find out or can look at things that other people do, the more chance there is of spreading further knowledge and information. It saves you having to do it yourself, and hopefully you all got something from it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel, and click the notification icon and the bell, and you'll be able to be notified when I upload new videos.